You know, when you just have that little piece of chocolate and you think, yep, I'm being really good. That's all I'm going to have. And then you finish that piece of chocolate and you think, maybe I'll just have a little bit more. I mean, it's not going to harm me that much. So that was my diet 30 days ago. I love sugar. I love cake. I love chocolate. I love anything from the bakery. So this 30-day challenge was going to be really tough, but really necessary. So I've started this journey about prioritizing my health and noticed that the amount of chocolate and sweets that I was eating was just getting completely out of control. There was just no limits. I would never say no to chocolate or to sugar. So my situation at the start of this challenge was me drinking about 4 hot chocolates a day, because in my mind, drinking a hot chocolate was a lot more healthier than eating a piece of a chocolate bar. And I would always need to eat something after I had dinner, something like a dessert while I sat in front of the TV. I would also help myself to special treats if I saw anything around the home. So if there was something in the kitchen, even though I wasn't hungry, I couldn't help myself. I had to have a taste of that chocolate croissant or some pastry or that chocolate bar. So there was really no self-control, but I also wasn't even conscious about how much sugar I was actually putting in my body. So I live at home with my family. So it's 3 kids and my husband. And I try a lot of the time to not buy, sweets and lollies. And if they are there, they're only there as a special treat for my kids. But the problem is my mum, who babysits, always brings some chocolate croissants, some pastries, all those treats for the girls, lollies, because that's their favorite, and fun-sized chocolate bars. So despite all the protests, I still see chocolates in my cupboard throughout the week. And that was proving to be a real challenge to saying no. And so it was really difficult doing this challenge to see all those things in the kitchen and not be able to eat any of it. I'm also currently working from home, so I find it so easy to just step away from the computer and go grab a snack from the kitchen, not really thinking so much what I'm eating and what I'm putting in my mouth. So with all that in mind, how did I actually go on this 30-day challenge? So the first few days were really hard. They were a lot harder than I was anticipating, because I didn't think I was addicted to sugar. I thought that, I'm just going to cut it out and it's going to be fine. I'm not going to crave it because I don't have a problem. But 3:30 rolls around, I'm starting to get a bit hungry and I'm getting tired and I want a snack. I want a bit of a sugar hit to get my energy levels up. And then particularly after dinner, that was the biggest problem for me, was this craving or need for dessert, which I didn't think I actually needed it, but I clearly did. My body was just craving it. It was, I couldn't handle it. It was after sitting in front of the TV, and I didn't know what to eat. I tried to have some fruit. That wasn't satisfying. Then I ate a whole bag of chips, and that was not satisfying because I wanted sugar. I didn't want potato chips. It was really, really tough. And I found in those first few days, I didn't know how to manage the cravings, and I would just go to bed really early so I didn't have to deal with it. Or I found that I was overeating my dinner. I was eating a lot more carbs during dinner because I thought that if I would be satisfied with my dinner and be completely full, that there was no way that I was going to eat some dessert, or I wouldn't be craving the dessert. But that did not happen. And so I had to deal with this. It was incredibly frustrating, but I just sucked it up and went cold turkey. And I'd say after the first week, it became a little bit more manageable. So during the day, my snacks would generally be roasted chickpeas with a bit of salt and chili powder. That's really quite delicious. Or apples with some almond butter, a whole bunch of almonds or any type of nuts. And I would make sure that I had a lot more protein in my lunches, so I wouldn't really have that craving in the afternoon, or I wouldn't have that tiredness that I always experienced, and that would find me going and grabbing a quick snack. And so once I did that, I found that it became a lot more manageable. Just make sure I wasn't hungry, then I didn't need to go grab something. And so the workday became a lot more easier, and there was no more running out to get that 3:30 p.m. snack. And eventually the cravings after dinner died down. I mean, it was really hard to get through, but they eventually stopped. So at about the 2-week mark, everything became a lot more manageable. But then I noticed one big issue was willpower. Now, as I said at the beginning, my mum would always bring chocolate and pastries to, spoil my kids. So whenever I saw that around the kitchen, it was really difficult to say no. And fortunately, I did say no. But there were moments where it was like, you know what? If I just have a little bit, no one's going to know, and it's not really going to change things for this experiment. And there was all this talk in my mind. I could just hear, that the angel versus the devil, telling me things, just go have a little bite. It's all right. And then, no, we're doing a challenge. This is for, your health and your well-being. And it was really difficult. I would, there's a chocolate croissant sitting on the table, and I'd come in to the kitchen and I'd stare at it, look away, leave the room, come back, look at it again. And fortunately, I decided not to eat any of it, and the build-up of willpower over time was probably one of the biggest things that changed for me. If I didn't have that willpower, I would have been eating chocolate, and not being able to do the 30-day challenge. So research has shown that when you exercise willpower, your willpower becomes a lot stronger. And I definitely noticed that throughout this experiment. After a week or so, my willpower was waning really badly. But the more I exercised it, and the more, I just kept saying no to the chocolate, to the pastries, the easier it became. And soon enough, by the 30 days, I can now look at a pastry, I can now look at chocolate, and I can say no, I don't want it. Whereas at the beginning, prior to this 30-day challenge, I needed to eat as much of that chocolate or as much of that pastry as I could, as fast as I could, and I needed to fit in as much into my mouth as I possibly could. And I would never say no. I would somehow manage to justify it in my head that I needed it, and it was all okay. But now that's completely changed. I can now, look at anything that was once tempting and say no. And that was probably due to me exercising all that willpower and building up that strength. So I feel now that after the 30 days, I have managed to build a real awareness of what I put in the body. I've set conscious boundaries about what I eat and what I don't eat, and I've really felt the effects mentally. I have that willpower, I have that focus on my health and what I eat, but also I've experienced a reduction in the size of my waist. I feel a lot more healthier, I feel fresher and brighter, and I have a lot more energy. And I think that's all because of this 30-day challenge. And I have not gone back. So once I finish this challenge, I don't have any hot chocolate. I haven't had anything, which surprised me. I mean, it's sitting there in the kitchen, a whole bottle of hot chocolate, and I have no need for it, no desire. There's still the pastries that my mum brings every week, and the chocolate bars, and, all the treats that would once have tempted me are now, there's no temptation at all. I might have a piece of chocolate, but it would just be a little piece. And a lot of the time I don't even find it that satisfying. I also want to point out that I honestly didn't think I was addicted to sugar. I thought what I was doing was normal, and it probably probably is. I'm sure a lot of people just eat the way that I do, and not realizing that once you didn't have any sugar, how much you really craved it. So before I started the 30-day challenge, it was really important to understand why was my body even craving sugar in the first place. So when we eat sugar, like a chocolate bar, that is a simple carbohydrate. And so our body will break that down into glucose for energy, and that glucose will be in our bloodstream. And then our body will release insulin to try and regulate our sugar levels and to reduce the sugar levels in our bloodstream, because at the moment we've just had a sugar hit. So when that sugar is removed or managed, it lowers our blood sugar level, and we tend to crave more to spike that back up again. And so when we are eating a chocolate bar, you'll find that in an hour or so, you're craving sugar again. Okay, so that was fine. So if I'm gonna eat sugar, I will be craving sugar. So the best thing to do is to cut it out, which is honestly easier said than done. So what else could I do? A lot of my research said to include proteins in your diet. So up the protein during your lunch and breakfast and dinner, and that way you probably won't be craving that sugar hit. So when we eat protein, it takes a lot longer to break that source of energy down, and you remain fuller for a lot longer. And when eating protein, there is no spike in your glucose levels in your bloodstream, so therefore you're unlikely to be craving all that sugar like you did when you had the simple carbohydrates or that chocolate bar and needed that hit, a few hours later. It was also important that when you're cutting out that sugar, which generally you use during a snack, that you replaced it with something to make sure that you're not starving yourself. Because when you're hungry, your body is looking for the quickest way to get a hit, of energy, and that is through simple carbohydrates. So you're more likely to go grab a chocolate bar or some sweets just to get that energy back up, especially when you're hungry and looking for some sort of satisfaction through your food. One more thing was to reduce the amount of stress that I had in my life. When you reduce the amount of stress that you experience, you're less likely to go and stress eat. Grab the potato chips or the chocolate, just to help you manage the stress of everyday life or work or whatever it is that you're experiencing. So that was also a really important factor to monitor during this 30-day challenge. So I'm definitely continuing, limiting how much of this added sugar I put into my body. I don't need it anymore. I really don't crave it. I'm now a lot more healthier. I eat a lot more protein, and going forward, I'm going to be a lot more healthier, and all the better for doing the challenge. So I'm so proud of getting through the 30 days. There were lots of moments of ups and downs. I've got to tell you, I wasn't sure I was going to get through it. But I did, and I'm so happy I did, and I'm never going to go back to that lifestyle again. I also believe that life is not worth living unless you do have chocolate, but it's completely under control, and that, I can have a piece of chocolate without going crazy. So that was my experience, and I highly recommend that you try this 30-day challenge if it's something that you feel you need. If you've noticed that, you're eating probably a bit too much sugar, or you're feeling lethargic, or just wanting to prioritize your health, 100% recommend this challenge, because it's a real lifestyle change, and it's going to really change you once you're done with the challenge. You're going to be all the better for it. So let me know in the comments below if you have done this. Have you cut out sugar from your diet? When I say sugar, I mean just this added sugar. How do you feel? Do you have any tips or tricks for anyone? I'd love to chat in the comments. So anything you like to talk about, just leave it down below. And until next time, bye.